And so we move on to Jonah 1:15. This is most of the review, including the idea of a first nun verb. Remember that nun assimilates when no vowel separates, and what that causes is that sometimes the nun will disappear, often into doubling of the second consonant. Something slightly different happens here, but anyway, hold that thought. See if you can pronounce this line. I would pronounce it Vayesu et Jonah Vayatiluhu. You've heard of Cindy-luhu. This is Vayatiluhu. Vayatiluhu. Vayatiluhu, yeah. El Hayam. All right. So this is something like, and they lifted up, and they went up, or they lifted up to Jonah, and they threw him to the sea. Some things you should know here, just see if you can recognize some stuff. You should recognize the vavs for sure, and. Vav patak doubling, you should recognize as a converted imperfect, quote unquote, or the preterite, the true past tense. Et, you should know as definite direct object marker, Jonah. El means to. Hey patak doubling is the. Yam is sea. So a lot of familiar things here, right? Now let's talk about the things that might not be familiar. Let's go to this first word here. Vayesu. So here are the parts. We've already talked about the vav patak doubling. That's the converted part. It converts the imperfect. The yod tells you it's imperfect, and the yod tells you that the subject is a third masculine, either singular or plural. If it was a third masculine singular, the subject would be a he. But here, because of the sharuk at the end, it's a plural, third masculine plural, so it's a they, a group of guys. So, and they nasa actually. I always think of NASA because it's to lift up or to go up. And so NASA, going up, take off, something took off to the moon from NASA last week or a couple weeks ago. So that's how I remember it. So this is a converted imperfect or true preterite, third masculine plural from Nasa. Okay, they went up, or they go up. Okay, so what happened to the nun? That's what you're asking, right? Because I don't see a nun here. Well, if you had, so the vayomaru would be normal, and we've got the va. We don't have the yo, but we have the maru. We got the sharuk and the shava and the sharuk at the end there. So the nun has gone away, and this often happens with what we call first nun verbs whose first consonant is a nun of the three. The nun sometimes goes away. It either assimilates into the next letter. In this case, I think here, I'm going to make a guess here, and I've forgotten exactly, but I think I might get it right. Correct me again if I'm wrong. I think what happened here is it was yin sa, and the nun did assimilate. But there's an obscure rule, and I learned these obscure rules from Lesor's Hebrew, which basically taught Hebrew starting with Esther 1:1, and you read the book. It's kind of what I'm doing with Jonah, although I'm a little more systematic than Lesor was. It's out of print now. But you'll notice even in this second converted imperfect here, Vayatiluhu. I think the accent is on the lu, by the way, and that sharuk is a defectively written. Kibbutz is a defectively written sharuk. So I would have expected a sharuk here, in keeping with the yod sharuk 1-2 punch, to get they. But the Hebrew didn't write it, so this is what we call defective writing. The kibbutz is there to say, there should really be a sharuk here. It's a U vowel as well. I don't think it's because of the who. Who is the object suffix him. Normally, I would want a holem vav, but who is probably more common after a vowel like this. So there's more than one way to skin a Hebrew verb or an object suffix, and this one uses who for him. So who is where the him comes from. But Notice that this should have been vav patak doubling. What happened to the doubling of the yod? And we're so puzzled. There's an obscure rule that says that sometimes a doubled consonant with a shavah under it, the doubling goes away. I don't ask questions. I just do what Lesor and others tell me to do. So I wonder if that's what's happened here with the assimilated. This should have been a doubled sin. Should have been double the sin. This is where you're allowed to have double the sin. Except because there's a vocal schwa under it, I wonder if the doubling went away. So here's my hypothesis, and ye Hebrew scholars tell me if I'm wrong, that in fact the first nun did assimilate into the sin, but then because of the vocal schwa, it went away. Poof, it's gone. But anyway, this is a first weak verb. We're going to begin to talk more and more about weak verbs as we enter this kind of next phase of the course. There are three main consonants. One of them can be weak, and that causes problems because stuff disappears. And then you have to do CSI on it and figure out what went wrong. Well, let's go ahead and finish this verse because this video is getting long already. It's already 6 minutes. How can I hold your attention? See if you can pronounce this last part of the verse. Vaya'amod hayam mizapo. Mizapo. I know mizapo. Anyway, so let me move my thing here. This is, and the sea stood from its raging. After they threw him into the sea stopped its raging. So sea is the subject, verb comes first. Vav patak doubling, that is a converted imperfect. It is third masculine singular because it's the O, there's no sharuk at the end. The sea is the subject, it's masculine. So third masculine singular converted imperfect from amad. G stem, which we don't know any other stems yet. Hayam hey patak doubling is the C. And then mem hirik doubling. What is that? That's min, the preposition min. And the nun has assimilated because no vowel separated. And it became a doubled zayin. Miz za. This is a closed syllable because it's a silent schwa. This syllable is closed, following a short verb, and then po is the final syllable. From, and then his, the C being a his. In English, we might say it's. It just sounds better. And then za'af is to raging, from its raging. And the C stood still from its raging. We're pretty much done. I just want to mention this. You might be thinking, why isn't this vaya mode? Why are these pataks here? And the answer is that when you have a guttural like ayin, gutturals like a vowels, and so it's kind of taken over the vowels and aified them. It's a grade A vowel problem. So this is a first ayin, a first guttural verb, and the way that has affected the sounds, it hasn't really affected much of anything. So this one's really easy. But what might have been let's see, yiktol, tiktol, tiktol. So this would have been ye mode, is what we might have expected with a hirik and just a normal schwa. But I can go ahead and tell you this: gutturals don't do simple schwas. Gutturals don't do them. They're picky eaters, and so the guttural opens up the shava ever so slightly into a katef patak, a slightly it's a short vowel, shorter than an A. We would transliterate it as an A with a little short mark over it. But ayin is not going to do a simple schwa, simple vok schwa. So it opens it up a little with a katef patak. And then the hirik under the yod by pure pressure also becomes an A vowel. So first gutturals, second gutturals, third gutturals are very easy weak verbs to deal with, but just know that they prefer A vowels. They're not going to eat their green beans. I only want A's on my plate. I think that's it. And so this concludes our look into Jonah 1:15.